issue, we talked about the gender wage gap, and I'm Isabel Rougier.
And I'm Gina Nassar.
So, what's up with the gender wage gap?
So, the major issue with the gender wage gap is that a woman is getting 78 cents compared to every dollar that a male makes. So, today, men are getting paid more in most jobs in our society. So, even if a woman has the same degree, experience, and credentials, she's still getting paid differently. So, you want some proof? Check this out. It's pretty interesting to see that not only does the gender wage gap vary within countries, but it also varies within states. So, if you look at the chart, you can see that in Washington, D.C., the gender wage gap is the smallest. So, women are getting 90% compared to the man. And then in Louisiana, it's the biggest wage gap because they're only getting 65% compared to every man. So, what's the issue with this? Like, why is it such a big deal? With women getting paid less, it's actually interfering with discrimination laws, specifically Title 11. So, Title 11 basically says that, like, if a person, but specifically in this situation, if a woman qualifies just as much as a man, then she should be getting paid just the same. So also, not only does the wage gap differentiate within men and women, but it also is affected with the ethnicity and age of the woman as well. So that would also be more discrimination laws. So why are women getting paid less than the man? So this just brings up like ethical questions or gender questions, like is the man smarter than the woman? Is that why he's getting paid more? Or does the woman not do the job as well as the man? Or do women have like other things on their mind, like more responsibilities in the home that gives reason to why she shouldn't be paid as much as the man who is more focused at work? So it brings up a lot of questions.
So, there are several court examples, but two of them that we have on this slide are Frontero v. Richardson and also General Electric Company v. Gilbert. Both of these examples are situations where women at the end of the day were paid less than men, and they spoke up about this issue. Both of them were high up in companies, and they brought up the issue, and with that, they made everybody aware of what was going on with this gender wage gap issue. So, some current events that are going on with the gender wage gap. Currently, full-time women workers are making only about 78% of their male counterparts' dollar. This is an improvement from what it has been in the past. However, it's not going to be equal until they both get $1. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act was signed by Obama in 2009, and this is there to help improve the situation of females getting paid less than men.
So, what is the problem? Like, taking all this in, what is the big issue? So, for 50 or more years, the Equal Pay Act has been signed by John F. Kennedy with intent that the gender wage gap would be over with and finished. But the issue is it's still present. Yes, it has improved, but it still needs a long ways for it to completely be done with. So the problem is, why is a woman that's paying for the same education or working just as hard, using up the same amount of time in the workplace or to get to where she wants to be in the workplace, but she's not getting paid as much as the man who's doing exactly what she is doing? This issue is also not just within the states, but it is international. So if you look at this chart, you can see in some of the major countries, Canada, the UK, US, China, and France, you can see how much less the woman is still getting paid from the man.
So let's take a deeper look at this issue of the gender wage gap. There are several scholarly opinions out there, but just a few of them that we have here. Scholars conclude that the education now only explains 7% of the wage gap. So in the past, a reason for why women were being paid less was because they didn't have as high of an education as men. Now that's not an acceptable excuse. Because of this, the question at hand is, why are rewards for people with the same level of education and experience different? Why are people being paid less, or why are women being paid less when they had the same education experience, if not more, than a man? Based on the pace of changes with the pay rate compared to men's since the 1960s, women won't see equal pay until 2059 or later. This shows that the rate of which we're changing and improving this situation is extremely slow and needs to be improved. So you might ask why men should get paid more, and these are some of the things that people, or some of the reasons that people think they should be paid more. Men get paid more due to the length of their hours and work days or overtime hours. So some might say that women have to go home earlier in the day or can't work as hard throughout the day because they have another another job at hand, which is taking care of their family and being the caretaker of their house. Some think that the wage gap is due to women's decisions to focus on domestic activities as opposed to education. So instead of going to school and getting a higher education, they decide that they're going to be a mom or stay at home. And because of this, they think that's the reason for the wage gap. Another reason that is thought that men should get paid more is because women tend to be weaker, or so they say, and they can't handle the long hours and the stressfulness of the job. With that, someone has said that they are by default women. At the end of the day, they are women, and anything that they can do can be done by a man with less qualifications. With that being said, or with all these things being said, these aren't true and they aren't reasonable reasons for women to be paid less.
So, a specific issue is a court case called Price Waterhouse and Hopkins. It reflects back to how one of the reasons people think that women should not get paid as much is because of their personalities, of being sensitive and feminine, and that's an excuse to why they can't work as much as a man can in the workplace. So, specifically in this court case, Hopkins worked for a place called Price Waterhouse, and she was not accepted or even offered a partnership that was being offered at the time, and she was one of the only women that even qualified for the partnership, and not because just her being so great, was because there were many women in the workplace in the first place. And also they even reconsidered her for her current position in the company. So people described her personality as over-aggressive or macho or authoritative, which are more like manly characteristics. And one of the partners even said that he cannot take a woman seriously as a partnership candidate. So the court ruled that Hopkins was being discriminated against for being a woman. So, what do they want then? When a woman is being macho or manly or aggressive or trying to reach that manly status in order to get paid more or get a higher level position, she's criticized. But when she's fulfills her usual woman characteristics of being sensitive, kind, and feminine, then it is a negative thing as well. So, there's never a win-win situation for how women can act in the workplace. So, what are some solutions? What can be done to fix this wage gap? One thing is the Becker model of discrimination. It basically says that more market power leads to less competition, and when there's less competition in an industry, then there's more leeway for discrimination, and they can do what they want because they don't have any competitors.
The Paycheck Fairness Act is also another solution. It would reduce the secrecy of payment, and with that, you would be able to see what other people are being paid and would give women better tools to realize and address wage differences.
And another thing is people say that women may have the same qualifications as a man, same skills, but that they don't speak up as more. So they suggest that women should negotiate more, speak what's on their mind. This is reflected in what Britain had proposed that 250 or more employees, along with Austria and Belgium, should publicly report this gender wage gap in order to build pressure and awareness for a change.
In conclusion, although some may think otherwise, the gender wage gap is an issue that's extremely prevalent and needs to be solved. Remedies to this major issue are in the making, but we cannot simply rely on them. We need to continue acting to better the situation and issue of the wage gap.
Over.